Hi, my name is Cindy Martin. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and I've been in practice for 20 years, specializing in the treatment of anxiety disorders. I prescribe medications as well as do intensive psychotherapy. And the reason I'm making this video is because too many people are still suffering needlessly from their anxiety by practicing outdated methods of handling anxiety that don't work. I've made these two videos to teach you the current way of handling anxiety that helps people get well, that does work, so that you can join the many patients I've had who tell me, oh my gosh, before I came in here, my life was ruined by anxiety, and now I have my life back. So I have two videos. The first video I've already made, and you need to go back and watch it, and it is all of the basic information that you need to know and understand what happens in an anxiety attack with the adrenaline system, so that you can overcome your fear of an anxiety attack, which is actually just a normal adrenaline response with a bad timer. And then this video is the how-to manual. It's going to be applying the things I taught you in the first video to handling an anxiety attack. And I'm going to teach you exactly what to do in an anxiety attack and also what not to do. So, if you haven't already, please go back and see the first video, because step one of how to handle an anxiety attack is to not be afraid of it. And knowledge is power. When you know and understand what's happening in your body, there are three things that will help you not be afraid, that will reassure you that everything is okay that's going on in your body. These are the things I went over in the first video. Number one, adrenaline response is what causes an anxiety attack. The adrenaline system is absolutely normal in you. There's nothing wrong with your adrenaline system. The adrenaline hormone kicks in when you are in life-threatening danger, and it is your protector. It's a good thing. It gives you energy to be able to put your body in a state of readiness to fight or flee or freeze when you're under attack. But in an anxiety attack, it occurs because when you're not in any danger. But this adrenaline in your body, you need to know, is not harming you or doing anything bad to your body. The second thing you need to know is that when you have an anxiety attack, there's nothing attacking you. I want to change the name to an anxiety episode or feeling anxious, because that whole wording, anxiety attack or panic attack, there's nothing attacking you. Your adrenaline system, that is your protector, is kicking in at a bad time. It's got a faulty alarm system, and it's triggering when you are not in any danger. And your body is responding by getting ready to fight, flight, or freeze. And what's making you terribly uncomfortable is that you're not running and you're not fighting and you're just sitting someplace. And so what you need to know is, don't be scared that your heart is pounding, or that your breathing is shallow and more rapid, or that your stomach is tight, or that you're sweating. Because if you were running away from an attacker or fighting an attacker, you certainly wouldn't notice any of these body changes. So when they happen in an anxiety attack, know that they are harmless. It's your adrenaline system doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The third key to conquer your fear is that you need to know that you can't stop an anxiety attack. Because once the adrenaline system triggers on, it's trying to tell your body that you're in danger. You can't tell yourself not to be afraid. You can't force a scared animal to not be afraid. So the fear button is what's triggering your anxiety attack, your own fear. It's your own panic that's causing the panic attack. So once you're afraid, you keep the adrenaline pumping. Therefore, you keep these body changes happening. You keep the heart pounding, you keep the shortness of breath, you keep the dizzy head. And you try to stop these body changes, and you can't. So then you feel out of control. And that's even more scary. So you get more fear, and that's what's fueling the panic attack. And that's why it lasts and lasts for 20, 30, 40 minutes. So now I've convinced you that you don't need to be afraid, because this is a normal body response, but it's going off at a bad time when you are not in danger. So now you are armed and ready to have your next anxiety episode. And notice I didn't call it an anxiety attack. Okay? So step one is you can turn off the adrenaline alarm. What turns off adrenaline? When the brain knows you're not in danger. And if you're not afraid, that's what's going to turn it off. So the body stuff is a nuisance. It's annoying. It's terribly uncomfortable. But now you know, if you watched my first video, you know what's happening. And you know that the adrenaline system is working and it's not harming you. Now, of course, because you've had so many terrible experiences in the past when you didn't know what was happening, so you were scared half to death, and you couldn't turn it off, and you couldn't stop it. So it lasted and lasted. So of course, your first reaction when you feel anxiety coming on is to say, oh no. You're going to have a moment of being afraid. But I want you to have just a moment. I'll give you one moment. Long enough that when it first starts to come on, you go, oh no. And then you're going to say, oh well, it's just adrenaline in my body. And you're going to turn off your fear, because your fear is the fuel that keeps it going. So your first step is to recognize it. It's just adrenaline. And allow it to last until it turns off on its own. So convince yourself not to be afraid by actually talking back to your adrenaline. So when you first feel the very first symptom, I want you to say something to your adrenaline like this. Oh, hi adrenaline. You again. What are you doing here? I'm not in any danger. Thanks for the alert, but you can go away now. I want to share 3 quick stories of patients that have had really interesting ways to attack their fear. One man, whenever he would start to get with that first wave of the adrenaline, he would get very dizzy and he'd be afraid because he was driving a car. So with that first wave, he would say, oh, it's just adrenaline, I don't care. And he would just go back to driving his car and listening to his radio. And I love that I don't care. So you could try that one. I had a young girl that was a college student, and every time she tried to take an exam, she would start to have an anxiety attack. Again, her brain was trying to tell her she was in danger when there was nothing attacking her. But she would get that first wave of adrenaline, start to feel really uncomfortable. And when I taught her that adrenaline is awesome, it's your protector, you couldn't survive without it whenever you were really in danger, she said, oh, that's cool. Adrenaline, so you mean adrenaline is really cool? Well, I said, yes. So when she would get that first wave of adrenaline and she would think, oh my gosh, I can't take this test, I'm going to have to leave. She'd say, oh, adrenaline. cool. And she would relax and get back to taking her test. The fear button would turn off. My third patient's tactic I want to share with you is this was a patient who his worst fear when he started to feel anxious was the heart pounding and the chest tightness. And it was extra anxiety producing for him because his father had had a heart attack. And he had already had his heart checked out. He was only 26 years old, and his heart was perfectly healthy. So when the anxiety started, and he would feel that heart pounding, and he would feel that chest tightness, and his normal response was to go, oh my gosh, is there something wrong with my heart? Instead, as soon as he felt that, he said, is that all you got? Talking to the adrenaline. Bring it on. He was inviting it to get worse. Again, fear button off. So that's what I need you to do. Step one, recognize it, name it, and as soon as you say, hi adrenaline, I know what you are. Step two is I want you to breathe a sigh of relief. It's just adrenaline. And I want you to release some of that muscle tension. Let me explain this. When you're driving down the street and a car pulls out in front of you, okay, you're really in danger. And you have an adrenaline response that's appropriate. And you act impulsively and you slam your foot on the brakes and you swerve and you pass the car. And now you're driving down the street and you missed him. What's the first thing you do? Whew. Oh, thank goodness, I'm okay. And that sigh is a long exhalation that lets out excess carbon dioxide and resets your breathing back to normal. And you also relax. You release that muscle tension where you've been gripping the steering wheel. You relax in one moment of, whew, I'm okay, thank goodness. So that's what I want you to do. It takes only seconds for you to get that first wave of feeling anxious, recognize it, oh, it's just adrenaline, so what, I don't care, or bring it on, and then to realize you're okay and go, thank goodness, I'm okay. It's just an anxiety attack. Step three, now what do? Nothing. Because there's nothing to fight or run away from. You've already turned off the adrenaline in your brain, but your body hasn't reset. So you can't fight your own heart pounding or your own dizzy head or your own feeling of shortness of breath or your tight stomach. You have to put up with it. So stay put where you are and tolerate this discomfort because you have no choice. Try something right now. Can you stop your heart from beating? Try it right now. Just stop your heart. Oops, can't do it. Okay. So even though the adrenaline button has turned off the danger alarm, your body's going to take a few minutes to reset back to normal. So your only choice is to put up with it. It's uncomfortable, but it's no more uncomfortable and definitely not, it doesn't have to be scarier than hiccups. Now, what if you try to flee this anxious feeling? You can't fight it, you can't flee it because there's no attacker. But what if you try to flee because you're scared? What so many people do is they leave where they are. The usual response is, oh my God, I'm having an anxiety attack. Oh, this is awful. Oh, I hate this. And you're filled with fear and you're filled with dread and you think, I've got to get out of here. So if you leave the situation where you are and you walk out to your car, say, you will feel a temporary relief because you're moving and you think you're going to safety. So let's say you leave where you are and you try to get help. You call your support person. You call your spouse or your mother or your best friend and you say, I'm having another anxiety attack. Talk me out of it. And if you rely on somebody else to give you the help you need to say you're okay, and give you that reassurance because you just left someplace, then sure, the body's resetting to normal and you're turning off the fear button, so you're going to feel better. But now what? Look what happens. Are you glad you left? My guess is it was probably socially awkward to leave, and many people feel very embarrassed at the circumstances under which they had to leave. And most likely, you're also disappointed that you're missing out on the activity that you can't be doing right now because you had to leave because of your anxiety attack. And then the worst thing is, since it ended after you left, you come to believe that it's where you were that was causing it. And you come to believe that it's because you left that it stopped. It was stopping anyway. And you hastened feeling better because you told yourself, I'm going towards safety. I'm going to get help. I'm going to escape this place that's causing my anxiety attack, like my car, or I'm going home to lay down. And then for future anxiety attacks, you start to avoid those situations. And your life becomes so limited and restricted, trying to avoid anxiety attacks. So you think, I can't do this. I can't go to crowded Walmarts. I can't go to crowded places. I can't fly on a plane. I can't go into large crowds. And your life, this is where your life becomes ruined by your own fear. So what I'm telling you is the third step is, it's very quickly. Step one, you recognize it's just anxiety. It's just adrenaline. It won't hurt or harm you. Step two, you breathe a sigh of relief. Whew, thank goodness, and flood your awareness that you're safe. And step three, you sit there and you put up with the fact that your body doesn't feel comfortable. Step four, there are some things you can do to wait comfortably. You have to wait. It takes a few minutes for your body to reset back to normal. So there are some things that you can make yourself more comfortable for a minute or two. Because again, like I told you, the adrenaline is turned off, but the body's not reset. So what does adrenaline do to your body when you're in real danger and you're running or fighting? It's giving you high energy. And this high energy is something that as soon as it is that to make yourself more comfortable while you're waiting for it to pass is to use that energy. So move, do something. If you're someplace that you can walk around, then do so, because actually exercising is going to use up the energy that the adrenaline just gave you. If you're in a business meeting or sitting in a church pew or in a plane or in a car and you can't get up and walk around and do some exercise and use that adrenaline, just tap your foot or tap your hands on your legs or tap your fingers on something. Just kind of shake it out a little bit. Just try to shake it off. It's kind of like athletes do. Watch an athlete right before they run a race. They shake it off. They've got the same adrenaline that you're experiencing because they're anxious. But their anxiousness, they interpret as excitement. But in order to calm down their adrenaline, they're swinging their arms and shaking it off and getting ready to run a race. So you can do those kinds of things. It kind of discharges some of that energy. That's what you can do physically. Mentally, get your focus off of the uncomfortable body stuff. because again, it's not harming you. You don't need to be hyper-focused on it. So refocus on the world outside of your body and re-engage mentally on what you were doing when your anxiety started. Re-engage something that requires all of your mental energy so that your brain is actually reassured that if you are calling a business associate on the phone or returning emails or returning texts, obviously I'm not in danger. So re-engaging in what you would be doing if you weren't feeling uncomfortable from your anxiety also hastens that reset button. So wait, refocus, re-engage. Lastly, it's going to end. You're going to feel perfectly normal. You need to notice that. Everything is all clear. And this is where you haven't moved. You stayed put. You handled your anxiety. And now you're going to build your own confidence in your ability to handle it. As soon as it leaves, watch it go. And think to yourself, notice that wasn't so bad. It wasn't nearly as bad as my previous panic attacks used to be when they lasted and lasted. This whole thing can occur in just minutes. And now that you've built your confidence, you need to practice. This is what we in psychotherapy and in psychiatry call exposure therapy. If you are afraid of something and you do the scary thing, it's not so scary the more you do it. And you desensitize to your fear. So if you handle an anxiety attack, I just called it an attack again, I keep doing that, sorry. If you keep handling your anxiety by, hey, oh, it's just adrenaline in my body. Whew, I'm okay. And you stay put, wait for it to pass, shake it off a little, re-engage your mind on something that will take your full concentration, and now you're watch it go. And as you do that again and again, each time you do it, it will last a shorter and shorter amount of time until the whole wave of anxiety can be just minutes, even seconds. So, in review, you're not going to be afraid any longer of your normal adrenaline system in your body. You're not going to be afraid of the body changes, of the heart pounding or the sweating, because those are normal body functions that are not bad for your health in any way, and it's going to pass in a minute. And you're not going to try to stop it by panicking or doing all those crazy things like taking a Xanax and splashing water on your face and running for help. You're not going to leave. You're not going to rely on anybody else to turn off your fear button. You're going to turn it off yourself. And as you do that again and again, you'll get well. So, I have one final nurse practitioner's orders. And it's this. If you've been avoiding certain situations because you think that the situation is what's causing your anxiety attacks, I need you to get back to doing those things one by one. And this is how to handle it. You decide what you're going to do, where you're going to go. And when you enter that uncomfortable situation and you get that wave of anxiety, you know what to do. You know what the tools are that I just gave you. You feel anxious, you name it. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling a little anxious. It's just adrenaline. Whew. I'm okay. and you stay put, you re-engage, and you keep doing what you're supposed to be doing and you would normally be doing in that situation until you feel better. And the minute you feel better, you celebrate with success. And you keep mastering that. You keep get back to doing everything that you once did before you ever had anxiety. And with each success, you'll be retraining your brain and retraining your adrenaline system to not be so hypersensitive. And that's actually treating the core of the illness so that you have less and less anxiety episodes at all. And then you can join the many, many patients I have had who tell me, my anxiety used to ruin my life, but it doesn't anymore. So I want to tell you to go ahead, get started, have the courage to face all of your future anxiety episodes without fear, and get well. Thanks for listening.